Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark has been given a lot of credit by us Big 12 fans, by national media, by pretty much people across the country for the way he's been able to step in as commissioner of the Big 12 and set the Big 12 up for not only a successful present, but also a solid future. Has he really been that good, or has he just been extremely lucky? We're going to talk about that right after this word from my sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. What is up, college sports fans, Big 12 fans, and fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another edition of Couz's Corner. Belly yourself up to the bar, find yourself a corner booth, or just grab a chair and let me serve you up this shot of top shelf college football content. On tap at Couz's Corner today, we're talking about Brett Yormark and the Big 12. And have they really been great at what they've done? Brett Yormark particularly. Has he just been that good? Or has he just been really lucky? And that's the topic of today's show. Now, I got the idea for this video from a couple different places. Number one, Max Olson over at The Athletic wrote a great article about really kind of breaking down and detailing all the events that happened that enabled Brett Yormark and the Big 12 to get the four corner schools from the PAC. Utah, Colorado, Arizona State. Lays it all out in a great article. I'll link to the article in the description. It is behind the paywall, but I recommend if you can, once this video is over, to go read that article if you haven't. Also, got to give a shout out to my guy Josh Neighbors. Did a great video on a similar topic. Josh Neighbors has a show called The Neighborhood Watch. It's on the Crystal Ball College Football Channel, which is part of the 365 Sports Network. I'll link to that video as well. So give a shout out to all those folks. But that being said, when I started thinking about this, I thought, man, yes, Brett Yormark did some really good things, but man, he was also just downright lucky too in a lot of ways. And I actually made a list of 4 ways Brett Yormark, and by extension, the Big 12 has gotten really lucky. Number one, and this might be the biggest one, the Pac-12 just could not get out of their own way, folks. Just could not get out of their own way. It all started back when Texas and Oklahoma announced they were leaving the Big 12 for the Pac-12 back in, I guess it was the summer of 21. When that happened, you had all 4 Texas schools from the Big 12. Or I'm sorry, all 3 Texas schools at the time. It was Texas Tech, TCU, and Baylor, along with Oklahoma State, made an effort to get into the Pac-12. And a lot of the Pac-12 presidents apparently were on board with that. But they allowed USC president to stand up in a meeting and basically tell them it was a harebrained idea, for lack of a better term, and they killed it. So they did not take those 4 schools, and we've also heard reports that Houston was part of that conversation as well, who was in the American at the time. They did not accept any of those schools into the Pac-12 and decided to stay where they were. Well, 1 year later, what's USC do? They bolt. They're out. They're going to the Big Ten. Another way the Pac-12 got in their own way, the media deal. They had an offer, folks, from ESPN for $30 million. What did they do? They said, nah, we're worth a lot more than $30 million. We're the Pac-12. We deserve a lot more than that. We want $50 million. What did ESPN tell them to do? Kick rocks. So then the Pac-12 decides to take it to the open market. Well, guess what, folks? You know what they found out? Nobody else thought they were worth more than that either. They weren't able to get a deal done that everybody was happy with. Not enough money and not enough, but even more importantly, not enough exposure on linear television. That was the problem. And all the presidents wouldn't sign off on it. And because of that, the Big 12 and Brett Yormark was able to step in, take advantage of that situation, get a media deal done, and then in turn, eventually land the 4 corner schools that I mentioned: Utah, Arizona State, Colorado. The second way the Big 12 got lucky, Coach Prime and Colorado. Now, the Colorado was not necessarily as much luck. Well, it was to a degree because of the Pac-12 being on their own way. But the part I'm talking about more specifically is the Coach Prime piece. We all see the eyeballs that Coach Prime is bringing to Colorado football. A team who was 1-11 a year ago, now they're 3-1. Every single game they are playing has like 8, 9, 10 million viewers, folks. All that excitement, all that media attention, all that hype. Guess where that's going to be in a year? The Big 12. Now, it might not be as amplified when they get in the Big 12 because the newness will be worn off. You know what I'm saying? It won't be quite as exciting, but he's still going to draw eyeballs, folks, because it's Deion Sanders, and that's just who he is. He has that type of personality. You may not agree with a lot of the things he does and says, and heck, I don't. But there's no denying the media attention. There's no denying the hype. There's no denying the viewership numbers. And what does viewership numbers equal? That's right, money. And he's going to bring viewership and potentially even more money to the Big 12 in the future. And the reason that makes the Big 12 lucky is because they didn't know how they know he was going to be the coach at Colorado. According to Max Olson, these conversations with Colorado took place before Coach Prime was ever hired as their coach. So the fact that Coach Prime became their coach after them starting those discussions makes them lucky. And also Coach Prime wanted Colorado in the Big 12 based on reports I've read. So he probably helped push Colorado to the Big 12. Just another way that him being there was good luck for the Big 12. Now, the third way the Big 12 and Brett Yormark were lucky revolves around UConn. And there's a couple different layers to this argument here. Number one, it's been reported a lot that Brett Yormark was really high on UConn, and he really wanted UConn in the Big 12 because of their strong basketball brand and to help get to Big 12 in that New York market where UConn is apparently very popular. According to reports, a lot of the Big 12 presidents were not quite on board with this because they didn't think UConn brought enough to the table from a football perspective. If Brett had not been able to land the four corner schools, then there was a good chance UConn may have eventually gotten an invite to the Big 12. He could have talked the presidents into it. And if he couldn't have, if Brett Yormark was unable to talk the Big 12 presidents into adding UConn, his reputation as this great businessman, as this wheeler and dealer, this guy who's able to land these big deals, may have taken a little bit of a hit, at least from a national level, from a national perception. And even if he had added UConn, let's say they only get Colorado, the other three corner schools don't come, but then he goes and grabs UConn. So they stay at 14. They have Colorado and they have UConn as 13 and 14. Even if that had happened, even though I'm someone who wanted UConn in the Big 12, I thought it would be a good move. I also understand the national perception may not have been that way. The national perception would have been, well, Brett Yormark wasn't able to get the four corner schools. All he could get was a team that was 1-11 a year ago and UConn, who's a laughingstock in college football. And that would have been the narrative, especially from the folks on the West Coast who had already been saying all along there was no way this was going to happen. There's no way Brett Yormark's going to get the four corner schools. He needs to just stick with getting UConn because that's basically all he can do. That would have been the narrative. And because he did get the four corner schools and didn't get UConn, now the narrative is Brett Yormark is an absolute deal maker, and he was able to convince those four corner schools to join the Big 12. So now that perception stays with him, and all everybody talks about is how great of a job he's done, and rightfully so. And then last but not least, the fourth reason the Big 12 is lucky, and that's the Big 10 inviting Oregon and Washington into the conference. We all have probably heard a story by now, and it's in Max Olson's article, the one I told you about. That's linked in the description as well. Colorado had already agreed to join the Big 12. Arizona apparently was on board. They were planning to come. Well, there was one last meeting that the Pac-12 presidents were going to have with George Kliavkoff where he was going to present the Apple deal. And apparently, decisions had been made, even by Arizona, that I think we're going to sign this deal and stick with the Pac-12. Well, Brett Yormark, that's what he thought was going to happen. He thought he had lost, and he thought he was going to lose out on getting all four of the corner schools. Well, at the last minute, the last second, you could even say, the 11th hour, in swoops the Big 10, sends an invitation to Oregon and Washington. Oregon and Washington says, absolutely, we want the Big Ten. They're bolting for the Big Ten. That kills the Pac-12 deal, opens the door for Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah to now join the Big 12 conference, which meant Brett Yormark was able to do everything he set out to do when he took over as commissioner, at least all the big items. Number one, he got the media deal. Number two, he got Texas and Oklahoma and negotiated an early exit for them. And number three, he got the four corner schools, along with some other things he was able to do. You talk about the pro day, the Big 12 pro day is going to be held in Dallas-Fort Worth on the NFL Network. You talk about basketball, the basketball event in Rucker Park in New York City. You talk about playing football and basketball games, or at least not for now, basketball games in Mexico. All these things Brett Yormark wanted to do, he's getting them done. And he even got the big items done. And the biggest one was adding the four corner schools. Now, I understand. I'm not saying this was all luck. Like I mentioned the show about Josh Neighbors, and even in the article by Max Olson, it talks about creating your own luck. I think that may even be a quote from Brett Yormark. Yes, he was lucky in a lot of ways, but that luck was created, number one, by working his tail off. Number two, convincing Colorado to make the move before they saw the actual media deal, because that kind of set it all in motion. And also, he was smart enough to realize, hey, we got this $30 million offer, $31.7 million offer from ESPN and Fox. We need to take it. That's a good deal for us because it solidifies us, gives us a firm foundation on which we can build our future. And that's what he did. He didn't go out and think the Big 12 was worth a lot more than they really are. He took the deal that they were given, the opportunity they were given, still got a little more money for his existing members, but it set in motion everything that followed. Had you not been able to get that deal done, you don't get the four corner schools because they don't see a better opportunity there. Also, the Texas and Oklahoma thing. He saw an opportunity to make a deal with Texas and Oklahoma, get them out early. And yes, they didn't get the amount of money they wanted for the legacy members, but they got something, and they got Texas and Oklahoma out earlier to make room to add the four corner schools. So it's all working out for everybody. He was smart enough to know when to get to do the deals and how big the deals needed to be. And he was able to get deals that were win-win scenarios for everybody involved, folks. So yes, there was some luck in it, but there was also some knowledge, some wisdom, and a really good work ethic to make sure this all happened when and the way he wanted it to. Well, folks, I want to hear your thoughts on this topic. Do you think where the Big 12 is at today is mostly luck? Or do you think it was Brett Yormark, his skill and his knowledge to be able to go out and get these deals done and do the things he wanted to do? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Also, hit the thumbs up button below, folks, if you don't mind. That really helps my YouTube algorithm. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. My next big goal is 7,000. I want to get there before the end of the calendar year, but I need your help to do that. Also, share it with your family and friends. And guys, if you want to support the channel financially, there's a lot of ways you can do it. Become a member of Couz's Corner. Join the VIP club. You can be a club level member, which is on your screen now. I've added a couple perks to that level. I've added a private Discord server for conversations, and I may even share some confidential stuff I receive from sources in those chats occasionally. And I'm also adding in some special videos with limited ads that I'll give to club level members only. Also, there's pub level members, $2.99 level, where you can get some perks as well, like member shout outs and recognition, like having your name on the screen now. All of that comes with being a VIP club level member at Couz's Corner. You can also make one-time donations by using the Super Thanks button. You can also donate to my Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal, which is in the description box. And you can also support me for free with the ways I mentioned earlier: like, share, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate you supporting me here at Couz's Corner. I really appreciate you watching this video. And until the next one, Q Country Roads.